All right, so I'm going to start with my medium paintbrush. And remember, we have white, black, and red. This is going to be very similar to when we did the ball last semester, so it should be a lot of it review, right? Because we actually ended up using red, white, and black, right? So the hot spot along this edge, right, more brighter up at the top, and as you go to the left, it gets darker, right? And I think the hardest part with this, of why people thought the cone, or I'm assuming why the people thought the cone was more difficult, is getting that effect that the cone is curving this way, right? That is going to be the most difficult part. So let's go ahead and start creating our different values. So I'm gonna, again, remember, whenever you use paint, you always start with the lightest paint. In this case, it's white. I might have gotten too much white. Okay. And then I'm gonna mix that with a little bit of red. So we're going for like a pink. And as you all know, when it comes to blending with paint, you're fighting time. If you want, oh, I know, here, let's see if the camera, it's actually more pink. Here, I'll put more pink on there, or more red. The camera's not picking up how pink it is. So let me put more red on it. There. Now you can kind of see it. And it's actually more pink on my, in person than it is on the camera. Okay. To help you, I would suggest just putting your paintbrush in the cup with water and just mixing in a little bit of water in with your paint. Not a lot. If you put too much, your paint's going to be watered down and it's going to be see-through, right? And I'm going to put this value of the light red towards the bottom. Remember, acrylic, when it dries, does it dry lighter or darker than how you see it? Yes, thank you, Chris. It dries darker than how you see it on your when you're mixing it. So this is actually going to dry a little darker, which is fine because I started at the bottom. And then I'm going to start adding more white to that pink. Each time I'm making another value next to it. So I'm making this side a little lighter. All right, and at the top, I'll wipe my paintbrush. I'm going to take solid white and put it along the top here. Remember to blend, or how to blend and get rid of those lines here. Let me zoom in so people can see that a little better. In order to fade or blend those lines, right, I like to use my hand and wipe my paintbrush so there's no paint on it. And then you just dab your paintbrush, almost like a feather, onto those lines to make those lines blend out or fade out. And so the wiping of the paintbrush is going to be super important. I hope this is something that everyone already knew and it's not something new for anyone because we have been painting. I'm going to go ahead and put paint along that outline so that the pencil doesn't show up on my painting. And then I'm going to fade it into that next value of pink. All right, so we want the smooth gradual change. The more smoother it is, the more 3D it'll look. Remember, the whole point of shading is to give that illusion that something is 3D. All right, so now I'm going to make the next value, which is this darker pink. All right. And I'm going to put it along that edge of the lighter value. Notice how I'm making a separate pile for each value so that if I need the previous value, I can always use it and have it available to be able to blend with the next value. Another way of getting rid of that line that I think I showed you last semester is you can use your finger too. Just lightly drag it along that edge to fade it out. I'm going to mix a little bit of water. If your paint is coming out really thick on your paper, mix a little bit of water in with the paint. And then sometimes people go back, like I'm doing right now, to kind of have a smoother transition. All right. You don't have to wait for me if you are ahead and you need to make the next value. By all means, go for it. Don't wait for me. And then, because remember, over here we're gonna go with the darker red, so it's gonna look almost burgundy. And then if you need me to do something or redo something to show you, you have to let me know though. So before that paint dries, hopefully it hasn't already, I'm gonna fade that line out, but I'm gonna put the other value right next to it and blend it. Everyone good so far? All right. Question for everyone. Can you blend something that's already dried out? Nope, not at all, actually. Because remember, acrylic, once it dries, it dries. You can't add you can add water, but it's not going to do anything. It's not like it's going to reactivate the paint. So just keep that in mind. What's that, Caritina? Yes, exactly. Watercolor, you can add water, and that reactivates it. Acrylic, actually nothing else besides watercolor can get reactivated with water. All right, I'm going to make a darker red or value and add it to the next stage here. Oh, I already made a mistake. And that is, I went ahead and made the next value and forgot about having enough value to blend this out, or from the lighter one that I had earlier. So let me kind of make that really quick. Another question. Can you remake the same exact color twice. No, you can get really close, which is what I'm about to try and do, but there'll be some slight differences, okay? And let's see if I can get this to work. There we go. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to make a darker red over here on the bottom left corner to blend in. So remember, when you add black to red, you're going to get like a burgundy, or even also it'll look like a dark purple as well. And that's going to be this left side here. And I'm going to put that along the edge of the cone on the left. The more values you have whenever you're painting anything, obviously, the more 3D it'll look. And now I'm going to fade out that edge with the dark purple, or not dark purple, dark red. And also notice how I started on the light side and we've made our way towards the left. With painting, remember, it's easier to go from light to dark than do it the other way. Or else you end up using a lot of white and end up kind of wasting it. So I'm just trying to fade out that line and blend it with the rest of the cone. And I'm making sure that that line with that dark value goes all the way to the top. But I do make it look thinner as I get closer and closer to the top. So just be aware of that. All right, I want to get rid of this line a little bit more, so blend that out. So hopefully you guys are wiping your paintbrushes. I like to use my fingers or my hand. You can use a paper towel. I mean, I have my paper towel here too. I just like wiping it on my hand because I get to feel how much paint there is, and if my paintbrush is too wet, I can feel that. When you do that on the paper towel, you can't necessarily feel that. And now I'm going to add a little bit of a darker value along the bottom edge here of the cone. All right. So that is the blending or the shading of inside of the cone. And now we're ready for the shadow. How dark is my shadow going to be? Should I start with, go ahead, Caritina, sorry. Yes, darker than this. What's the darkest part of a shadow typically? Where is it? Go ahead, Caritina. Uh, like over here? The right side? Yes. So the shadow, the darkest part of the shadow is always closest to the object, right? That is typically the darkest part. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pretty dark red with almost a lot of black and tiny bit of red in it. And on the camera, it'll probably look solid black. But here, just to show you, I'm putting in a little bit of red in there. All right, so there is my darkest value. And then I'm going to have this blend in with the darker or a little bit lighter red. So let me go ahead and make that. So that's not dark enough. So I'm going to put a little bit more black. Careful on how much black you end up putting or mixing in with your red. I like to do it gradually. I know some of you are a little impatient when it comes to actually anything. So just be mindful of that. The good thing though about acrylic paint, if you mess up, you can just paint over it after it dries. I'm going to make it a little lighter, just a little bit towards the point of the shadow. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of white. Oh, that might have been too much. So a lot of the times I go back and forth. Once I finish a section, I'll leave it alone, or at least I think I'll finish the section. I'll leave it alone, go and work on the next section, and then look back and see if the first section needs some finishing touches, which is what I'm doing now. So again, it's darkest, closest to the bottom of the cone, and lightest as it goes out. Boom. You do not need to outline the cone, by the way, with your paint. If you do, you're kind of taking away all that shading that you did.